Welcome to Titan HST's Business Continuity Today, hosted by Todd DeVoe, where planning meets reality.
Good morning, and good afternoon, depending on where you are in this country. But today, I want to just get into electricity, electrical grid. And the reason why is I was having a conversation with somebody who responded to Puerto Rico during Maria. And he told me this great story about how they got together. They realized some of the issues that were going on. And it wasn't necessarily that the resources weren't there for people to purchase. It was that they did not have the ability to purchase goods because the credit card machines were not working. Right. So with the right technology, it's possible to run your business when the power grid does go down. So backup resources of electricity have become a must-have for all small businesses. Right. And so the generators or things like this, solar generators, it's something that you, as a business person, you have to have in your kit. So entrepreneurs and freelancers and small business people, they realize that if you want to sustain cash flow and your lifestyle during troubled times, you have to learn to run your business with the grid down. Now, in California, specifically, we have these power safety shutdowns where to stop wildland fires, the power companies have turned the grid off, basically. And so there are still businesses and homes and everything that are inside of that grid area that need to work, and they're not maybe not even impacted by any kind of fire and or evacuation orders, but they just don't have power. So the small business in Puerto Rico, they were able to stay open and accept digital payments even after Maria destroyed the electrical grid. And there was this one bakery that stayed open and made money by accepting Bitcoin, even though the grid was down. And so this was a story that was in the Medium by Annie Mueller, kind of reported on this. So she said that the owners even posted a sign that said, "We don't always have electricity, but we accept Bitcoin." That means that the Punta Bakery owners were able to make money without electrical grid. And so basically what they were able to do is use their phone, right? Use the internet through the cell coverage, right? And being able to swipe the cards. And so they were charging their phone with solar and doing other things like that to be able to still accept money and payments through credit cards. So one of the greatest threats that we have in the survival of small business is dependent on the economy of electricity. Right. And so it says, according to the San Francisco Federal Reserve, they reported that 78% of all transactions of consumer goods are done in the United States are done with credit card or debit services. Now, I've had this debate with my friends before regarding the idea that we're moving into a cashless society, and I see this in more and more. Now, I have to admit, personally, I use credit cards or ATM cards, if you will, debit cards, to do most of my transactions. I don't carry a lot of cash. Now, there's some safety reasons for that, right? So, obviously, if you get your wallet taken, you have to have the inconvenience of having to go through and getting those credit cards changed, but you're protected, right? If you lost $100 in cash, you're never going to get that cash back down. So the other problem that we have with living this cashless lifestyle is the ATMs and most stores that are running their credit card machines, they run it on electricity. So that means you'd have to, distribute cash the old-fashioned way of going to banks, right? And the problem is those banks are all electronic as well, so they're not going to be able to give you cash during that time. So as a business, as you run your business, you have to think on that aspect of how much cash reserve do you keep behind there? How is that going to work for you? Being able to give change and things like this. Can you still run your office? Can you still run your business, specifically point of sale business, with pen and paper and whatnot? Right. So that's some of the challenges that you have to think about when you're looking at the grid down situation. So most businesses have internet access to some type with backup electricity that should be able to keep operating and running your business when the grid goes down. Because even though cell towers are relying upon electricity, they now have solar generation, stuff like this to keep those cell towers running. So realistically, your cell towers will keep running during a grid down situation. Now, if you take a look at what Titan HST does with your phone, it actually turns your phone into a mesh networking. And I think mesh networking is one of those tools that we should have for the grid down issues, right? So phone to phone conversation up to 1,000 yards, it's really important, and be able to use your phone as a communication device during grid down, and to be able to do business with your phone during grid down becomes critical. Now, we saw this in Maria. Even in the gig economy, workers such as Uber, Lyft, and Grubhub drivers, they might still be able to keep working without the grid as long as the mesh network is up and running. There's a strong probability that cell phone systems will start to come back on before the grid comes on anyway, right? Like I said, because of the emergency backup power that the cell towers have. So this means that smartphones and payment apps like Apple Pay, PayPal, Google Pay, they're going to be operating in your area when the grid is down. Business owners might be faced with customers with no cash, who can't pay with, and maybe they can't pay with their phones either if there's no electricity. So the company with a source of backup electricity might be able to accept that Apple Pay, PayPal, Google Pay, and whatnot when the grid goes down. So planning for electrical grid failing, right? It's not something that's in a third world country. Okay. Here, like I said, in California, we have planned power outages during our windy events to prevent fires. Earthquakes can cause a power outage. Hurricanes, tornadoes, strong ice events in the Northeast that are taking out power poles and whatnot will also reduce the ability for the grid to operate properly. So keeping your business operational is critical because you'll need still to make money. You still need to pay bills. You need to feed your family and your employees as well. So off-grid electrical backup systems and satellite internet connection would be two of the smartest investments that any small business entrepreneur or freelancer can make during this chaotic world. So backup preparations for your business should make it possible to stay open during business, even to make money when grid down event. In addition, having some source of backup power would be considered other payment methods that you'd like to continue to operate. Now, there are other things that you could do, which are a little bit more expensive to invest in as well, is you could buy a full service generator for your building, right? And I think that's kind of something that's you might want to think about depending on what your operations are. When I was running an operations center for a city, we actually had, and I think most do, we had a generator that would run for 7 days without having to be without needing to be refueled. But those are very, very expensive. So using some of the newer, if you will, technologies to keep your small area running, now you're not going to run all the power in your building. You're not going to run all the refrigerators and things like this. But if you could get solar, the goal, I always get this one wrong, goal zero, right? You could get those generators, small generators, solar generators that will be able to keep, a few things running for you, specifically charging your phones, keeping your satellite up and running if you have that type of stuff. And so those are really great, inexpensive, relatively speaking, tools that you can put in to make sure that your business is up and running. At the end of the day, business continuity is a skill. Right. And it's a planning process. And you need to take a look at this and look at those threats that you have that are facing you. And then as you take a look at those threats, you have to make a plan to be able to mitigate those issues. Electrical power is one of those ones that we have to really take a look at closely and mitigate. We take it for granted here, specifically in the United States, that when you walk into your room and you flip the switch, the power will go on. Now, I can tell you from personal experience, when the power does go down, it's sometimes unnerving. When I was working for a university, we lost power for 36 hours, and the students were okay with it until their phone started to die. So having that plan for backup power is going to be critical for you to be able to keep your businesses running. And also, if you're doing government work as well, it's going to be critical for keeping the city government running. Planning for power outages is one of those things that sometimes we think as being, maybe tin hat wearing, off the grid type of person, but it isn't. As you hear in the typical urban and suburban settings in the United States, planning for those power outages is going to be critical. And I think today you should take your time to take a look at what your systems have, what is critical for your business to run, and how do you plan on keeping that electricity flowing through your business. because without electricity, at the end of the day, you're going to have to shut those doors, and it could be the difference between keeping your business running or closing it forever. I want to thank you all for joining us today here on Titan HST's Business Continuity Day, and be prepared and being ready. So thank you, and visit us at Titan HST for all your communications needs. And remember, follow us on your favorite podcast player, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and join us next week. And until then, stay safe, stay hydrated.